I'm Nadia Jordan, and I'm with Chris Gordon on Hellblazer Biz.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening and good night, listeners and viewers wherever you are in the world right now. This is Chris Gordon, your host on Hellblazer Biz. Thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate your time and your support as always. Today's guest is a fantastic guest, a lovely lady, delightful, very fun and very, very talented too, which is great considering it's International Women's Day and International Women's Week soon, another one showing women in film. She has just released a new film called For the Love of George, which is a new film she stars in as well. And it's about a British divorcee, who goes to America in the hopes and the dreams of George Clooney, like so many other women. Anyway, without further ado, I shall introduce you to Nadia, and the interview starts straight away with her answering the question of how she got into acting in the first place. Enjoy.
I used to do things like record myself saying, "Oh my God," in lots of dramatic voices on a cassette recorder and play them over and over again. Like I think I heard it in a film once or something. I thought that sounds like a great, dramatic line that actresses would say. So I started doing that when I was very young. And then I think when I was in school, probably like 7 or 8, 9, I would find like weird things like jokes and things and adapt them. And I'd recruit other class members to be in them, and I would basically appear in them myself, direct everyone else, produce them, and it wasn't a normal thing. It's not like everyone was doing that every week. I just used to wanted to do things and perform it for the class. So I wanted to be in entertainment from very young, I think.
Fantastic. It's a great way to start. Born entertainer.
Yeah. I don't know if I was born in that stage, but born in that stage, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you developed it. You tried, yeah. I was also very trying when I was younger, but I was in a drama club down. I say when I was down here in Watford when I originally lived here, and they used to call me Frodo. Because apparently I had extraordinarily big feet for my time for being a child, or so that's what they called me. So yeah, we did, and my attempt, we did a Blue Peter thing, and they did it. Obviously, and here's one we made earlier. Obviously, you being a fellow Brit, you will remember Blue Peter. Yeah. And here's one we made earlier. That was my line, and they went through the entire thing, got everything perfectly right, got to the end, and I couldn't remember the line at the crucial point, and it was just completely blanked, and I ruined the take. In fact, I probably ruined it. They only had one take as well at that time because cameras were so old. So, so completely wrecked it. Never mind. Oh, no. It's got better since then.
Yeah.
So I've noticed as well that you're not, you've done quite a lot of different things. Obviously, you've been an actress, and you're also been behind the scenes as a writer and a producer as well. So, do you prefer being in front of the camera or behind the camera? Because you're still doing both.
Yes, I'm still doing both, and the thing is, I'm a very hands-on person, and because this was my project that I created, it was an idea I had, and initially I never intended to write it, I never intended to produce it, and it's just the way it went. Initially, I just wanted to perform in it, and this was my project that I was going to create and have someone else do all the behind-the-scenes work. But because I have a lot of experience as a producer, I've worked in television before, and because I'm a very hands-on person, and to be in LA and really try and get a film made, it's a lot of work, and no one's as passionate about your own project as you are, right? So I kind of found myself ending up writing, producing, but when it comes down to it, I would prefer to act. I like directing. I've done a little bit of directing, and that's somewhere because it's a little bit more creative than producing is. Writing is creative, but it's a slower process, and I like to get things done quickly. So if I had to choose, I'd say acting, with directing coming a close second, and then producing, I'm very, very organized, so I like to kind of do things my way, basically. My film. And writing, I like being creative in writing, but I don't see myself where I would sit there for hours and hours, day in, day out, just writing. That's just not my personality type, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that would drive me crazy. No offence to any people who do write that, because it is fantastic that the people who've got that skill set and that ability to be able to sit there and just, write some fantastic stuff is awesome. But I'm kind of get up and go as well. So yeah. But it's fascinating to hear that, and obviously, with the acting, directing, and stuff like that. So, do you find it difficult, as you say, when you take control? So, as when you're doing as an actress, and the fact that you've definitely got the experience of the other stuff, how hard do you find that then, being in front of the camera and without that, because you wouldn't have. I mean, you've got some control, I guess, and you get some say of how things will go, but. How do you find that when you must be sitting there sometimes biting your tongue thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the director that you're working with and things. And if it's a really great director, you can put a lot of faith in them and not have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. But with this film, because it was obviously a project, so that I created, I had quite a lot of creative control over it that I wouldn't have had someone else produced it. So I was able to sit in the edit and perfect exactly how I wanted and put the music on that I wanted and the sound effects that I wanted and pick my performance that I wanted. I mean, obviously I'd be working with a really great editor. But yeah, in general, if you're acting in someone else's, you don't have that control and you just kind of have to hope for the best sometimes. And just trust that the director will do a great job.
Excellent. No, yeah, you're right. I mean, and that's what the directors are paid for. That's what they do best. So, I've had a pleasure of quite a few directors on the show to talk to, and I love because it just like the acting. There's such a different style and different variations in how people deal and how the styles that they work with, and it's amazing to get the full picture because that's a benefit of sitting here. On my side, sorry, when doing it for 2 years, it's like when I talk to people, it just gives me an all-round picture of the whole production of how it works. And I think from actors who I've spoken to before who've been in your position where they've also directed and produced, I think it benefits you in every different role that you've done as an actress. It benefits you because you've done directing and production and producing, so you know that what they're the terminology, what they're looking for, and likewise vice versa.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, with this film, I really wanted a female director because it was a female-driven comedy with, obviously the subject matter is George Clooney, so it kind of made sense. That there's me and my co-writer, 2 females. I was a producer. We had a predominantly female lead cast. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted a female director, and I actually struggled to find one, to be honest, that was available to shoot within the time that we needed to shoot. So I was very involved right up until, I think literally it was 3 weeks before we began shooting, we got our director. And she finished shortly after, just a few weeks after. So she was basically on set to direct during the actual filming, but then I did everything else around that, so like the casting and the locations and the score and the music. So it was really good to be so involved in everything, and it's been a good experience to me to go on. Probably with my next movie, I would want to direct it, and I wouldn't try and also perform in it. I just think maybe if some of these established directors like Ben Affleck and people do things like that, but I wouldn't attempt to try to especially with the first film that I was going to direct, I wouldn't even try and play the lead as well. And a few people actually said to me during this film, well, why don't you direct it yourself? And, I thought there's no way I could possibly do that. And I'm glad I didn't. But, in some regards, it would have been nice to, because I had such a strong idea of how I wanted it. But I think performing as a lead role anyway and directing is hard to do. I mean, it was hard enough producing because I was still... we shot it in, I think, just 15 days. So in all that time, we were still doing a lot of legalities and paperwork. I was actually writing, I think, till 2 a.m. one morning and up at 6 a.m. next morning to film, because we had to change a scene just to location issues and logistics and that kind of thing. So even writing and producing was hard enough, let alone if I'd attempted to direct too. I think I'd have probably collapsed.
Yeah, a one-man band. It does sound like it. It could be too much, like you're saying, because I can't imagine having to direct and then, like you say, be a lead character as well, because you'd be constantly like, jump. You'd have to.
I think it's too hard, and I think especially with this script. I mean, I didn't actually think when we were writing it that Poppy, my character, is in every scene, and I mean it's kind of her story, so it made sense. But I didn't actually think about how's it gonna be actually filming, in every single scene, because you just don't get a break. So. I mean, it's fun. I can't complain about it. It's fun. I got to act every single day, all day long.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. So I can't complain about it, but you just don't think of those things when you're actually writing it. Oh yeah, that's literally going to be shooting 12 hours a day, every day, every day of the shoot. So, but it was great fun.
Yeah, fantastic. And I mean, yeah, I've spoke. Yeah, there's say some of the guests I've had before, like Clayne Crawford. He told me because obviously just and like yourself, obviously being able to get time to do anything else, because that you just don't, because when you are like 12 to 14 hours of the day, you are on set filming and you're in front of that camera. You don't get time. It must be hard as well with families and friends and stuff, because obviously 15 days probably not as bad, because that's very impressive in fact that you managed to get a feature film filmed in 15 days. But but it must take a toll when you have to work so long hours, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, basically, have any life during filming. I used to eat McDonald's on the way home every night. It was always it was like 10 a.m. I'd get home at midnight. I'd look at some of the dailies and some of the script continuity things that had come up, and then I'd be like going over things in my head, and then I'd be getting up and driving to set at like 6 a.m. So you just but it's fun, like you say. It's only for 3 weeks, and it was highly enjoyable. Although hard work, but enjoyable work.
Exactly, that's the thing. When you've got a passion for something, it's not class. It doesn't seem like work when it's your passion.
Exactly.
Cool. Again, which is like this interview. And doesn't seem like people keep telling me, obviously, oh, I love your job, and I was like, well, one, I don't get paid, but two, I said it's not a job. I said this is. I just enjoy doing and talking to people.
Yeah. That's great.
You rabbit on and on. I rabbit on and on is what I mean. That's what people tell me. Moving on. Obviously, how's the journey been? Because obviously, For the Love of George, it's not your first time producing, and obviously it's not your first time acting, but it's your first feature film, because you've done a short, which was obviously Love's Debt, and you've done TV series, which was Rise, which I do remember, Channel 4. So what's the journey been like? How's it differed from filming, from producing like a TV show or for short?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot more work, and it took a lot longer. I mean, this was an idea I had for. This actually started as an idea I had for a TV show, and the character of Poppy, or not necessarily Poppy, but someone who was hoping to be the next Mrs. George Clooney, was just one of those characters. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'll make a short and make it into a bigger story. And then it just developed, and we started writing the script, and it just grew and grew and got better and better. And then, okay, well, let's make a feature and let's produce it. But it takes a long time. It's like, just because it's not a big budget studio movie, it doesn't mean it's any quicker. So, TV, you go in, you work, you go home at the end of the day because someone else is running the production. But with this film, I produced it through my own production company, which I set up, and it's just very, very awkward. I mean, I said I didn't have a life for 15 days. I feel like I had a life for the last years. It just really takes over everything. And, there's just so much that goes into it. There was perfecting the script. There was obviously then financing, and, then it was finding dates and finding the cast and being able to go into production. And then the post-production took a long time as well. So, that took over a year. So it's just very, very, you're committed a lot longer than you are on a TV show. You kind of leave that behind when you go home, but this you don't leave behind, I think, ever.
It's just constantly there.
Yeah, it's something that I created because it was my first feature, And everyone said to me, oh, you can't make a feature, your first thing, you have to make a short, you have to do it this way, you have to do it. You get a lot of people in Hollywood telling you, follow the procedure because this is how it's done. But I didn't want to make a short because I feel like everyone I've known who've made shorts before, they end up, oh, we should have made a feature,
Yeah.
And it's like, we had a good script. Why would I waste money putting it into a short when I could put it into a feature? And so that's what I did. But it maybe took me a lot longer than it would hopefully do the next time around because it was my first.
Yeah. Oh no! And again, it's something it's that people don't really see as much either. It's the producing side of things. So, it's the fact that it does take so long. I mean, there's a few guys. I'm a very big supporter of independent film, and so a lot of the people I speak to, and a lot of I've gained that knowledge of how long it can take. That people, sometimes it can take years. I mean, there's one film I did recently, which was Landscape Eliza, a great film, but it was. I think it's only just been released now because it's took 7 years. of effort to try and get it through. They had issues and stuff going through, and I think there's some dodgy things happened back then. Well, not with them, but with and they had to, but it just takes a long time to actually, because it's your own pet project, and you because you're determined to get it right and you want to see it right. So it can take a long time, and you haven't got these big Hollywood blockbusters. They can just sneeze and wipe their nose with $1 million. To put it. So it's fantastic that you can produce such quality films that come out. And I've said this to everyone who's an independent film. I do love independent film a lot more than I like. Well, not about the same, because you can get a big Hollywood blockbuster, but you don't get the quirkiness, you don't get the character. And I think because of an independent film, everyone's such a close knit. From everyone, from the cast right through to everyone, is such a little family in a family unit over, say, 3 or 3 weeks period. That shows so much in the actual story, and the shows in the love that the production comes out with. It's just something that shines through, which you don't get in a major Hollywood film, which has just had money piled into it.
Yeah, and it's actually, when you look at some that what they make some of these Hollywood big studio films for, like, some of it just seems so unnecessary. I just think we've got X much, so we'll spend X much. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of them don't actually even make the money back when they spend those ridiculous budgets. So it is really true on independent film. If you're working with a great crew, they're really kind of people that, if they're passionate about your project as well, they're people and kind of friendships and work relationships that you can build for life. And there's certainly great amount of people that I work with on this film that I really hope to be working with on next films, that will hopefully, we'll be having a longer shoot time and bigger budget, go on to make more and more. So I do think that, there is a kind of passion of people working in indie film that, it's because it's not just about the money, basically. Exactly,
and that you've hit the nail on the head there. It's not just about the money; it is a passion, and that's what you really do see, and you get to see that because. And it's something that can get lost at a bigger level. I'm sure no one will ever want to not having the budgets of a Hollywood movie, but you do. You don't. I mean, I'm not saying they're not passionate, but independent film. It's a close knit community. I found that. I've been, again. Sorry, don't mean to take it back, but just an example myself from doing what I've done. The independent community seemed to have welcomed me really well, and I'm hosting a UK premiere Q&A in 2 weeks' time, just as a result of getting involved. So it's which it's
maybe you can host ours when we have a UK premiere.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, Nicole, I hope you're watching. Yes. Yeah, but so it's a very close knit community, and everyone looks out for each other and supports each other, and it's something that's it's a lovely thing to see, especially in an industry that is so cutthroat.
Yes.
So moving on to casting, I mean, you mentioned casting before. Obviously, that's another part of the thing that you've done. You do have an awesome cast. I mean, you've got the likes of Rosanna Arquette in there, Rex Lee, and you've even got Marina Sirtis, who people will remember as Deanna Troi. I certainly do, and had a huge crush on her back in school. How did you find casting the film and getting people like these involved?
We had a really great casting director called Ali Day, who was really good, and she loved the script, and she loved like some of the British humour in it, and she really worked with me, and we would basically make hit lists about who we thought would be good in each role, and basically we just sent them the script, and I think it's the kind of script that, because it is very unique and different, that people either loved or they thought it wasn't for them, but. In general, most of the people we wanted, like I knew Rex Lee from Entourage and, thought he was great in that. And, it took him a couple of days, but when he came back and said he'd do it, we were all really pleased because, he's just so funny, isn't he? Yeah. He's just great. And the same with Tate Donovan. It's like, actually, Tate Donovan, our director knew kind of loosely. But again, that went through our casting director, like the script. People just think the script is... Tate Donovan is actually also apparently a friend of George Clooney, so it must have been
okay.
reading about that, and he was one of his mates. But it was just the script basically that appealed to people. I think it was something, a role that, like, Kristen Johnson, who plays a psychic. I don't think she'd ever played a role like that, and again, she thought the script was quite funny, and that's really what lured people into it. Marina. Actually, Ruth, who's in the film, who is a friend of mine, who's in Supernatural, she met Marina, And Ruth initially was meant to play the role Marina plays,
Right.
but she was filming somewhere else. So she suggested Marina. So that's how Marina came forward. And actually have a couple of friends in the movie just through, being in LA and meeting actors that I was able to cast. But the names basically all just came in because they really liked the script. I think it was just something different for them to do.
Excellent, excellent. And what inspired you to write that script and that particular story? Was there any personal background in it there?
Everyone asked me that. Do you no, I'd probably have written it about John Hamm, to be honest. But no, I think the thing that really inspired me to write it was when I came to LA. It was such a big thing at the time about, George Clooney was the eternal bachelor who no one was ever going to marry, and that's actually how the story started. The story was originally written around him being an eternal bachelor, and my character thought she was going to go to LA and meet him and end up marrying him. But obviously we all know that George Clooney didn't stay.
Yep.
Decided to get engaged and married midway during my script, but that's really how it started. It was the whole press thing about, George Clooney's got another girlfriend, he's an eternal bachelor, will he ever settle down? And on top of that, he's known for being very generous, very kind, very passionate, very funny, very charming. He is the kind of all-round Mr. Nice Guy, I think. So that's really, really what inspired it. And I'd kind of started thinking about the idea, and then I became more aware of all the humanitarian work he did. And I actually read a book that was a charity he's involved in, Not on Our Watch and the Enough Project, where he did all his Sudan and Darfur humanitarian work. They suggested, one suggestion to raise awareness to the charity was to have a screening for a movie. And I thought, hang on, this could all become a really good, take George Clooney, his eternal bachelor and all the stuff he does, the good stuff, and actually make it into a film and, donate some to the charity that he supports. So it kind of all put together that way.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. How did you feel then when he got engaged and married halfway through when you were making the film? I can imagine you probably sitting there going, oh.
It didn't actually register. I was in England writing, and I was actually midway through a writing session for this script, and I got a text saying George Clooney's just got engaged. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. And we carried on for a couple of days, and then we were like, I think we were in denial.
Yeah.
And then it was a couple of days later, and I have a really bad feeling about the film. I don't know what it is. Oh yes, George Clooney has gone and messed the whole thing up. My writing partner was like, let's just shelve it for a few months. I'm like, nope, we'll find a way around this. And we did. We actually built in his engagement and his wedding. And,
awesome.
We just touched on it. But it actually made the story stronger. It made my character's journey a lot stronger. And the fact that it was never really about George Clooney or wanting to be with him. It was, it was what he stood for at the time and where she was in her life. So it actually worked, I think, in our favour to the end. So I'm like, he just can't get, no divorces or anything now. He has to stay married, at least till the film's expand.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you're right, and it's good to see that. Obviously, that would strengthen the character of Poppy and the journey that she makes and make the film more about that, rather than, obviously, an elusive George Clooney love scene or whatever at the end, which I'm sure you wouldn't have minded getting him in for, but if he was available at the time.
yeah, exactly.
But yes, that's that is lovely, and it's a fantastic way to inspiration to sort of have and see how it's sort of built up and some trials that you had along the way to sort of get that. What's been the hardest moment for you during the making of the film?
The hardest moment. There's been so many. I mean, that was a hard moment when we were trying to first work out how that would work out. But I mean, we had deadlines. Like we had a deadline from one of our investors we had to start filming by, and we didn't have a director. And I'm like, what do we do? And it's like, do we start filming? What do we do? Do we hold off? Do we go for it? Do we start filming? Do we, put it on hold or whatever? So that was really hard. But I mean, obviously we came through all that. I mean, there's been some. We weren't even sure actually. Right up until there were certain scenes in the film that we didn't know if we could shoot right up until like literally the night before. There was another day when we lost one of our locations while filming.
Oh no!
Had to move to a different location, and there was construction noise. So I can laugh now, but literally it would be like, okay, 3, 2, 1, action, and we'd have like 20 seconds to get our lines out before the beeping started again, because they had cement mixers. So that was a very trying day. It's literally, when you're being counted down, and one of the other actresses, she couldn't always remember the lines to get out quick enough in the 10 seconds. There are things that came up during then, and then, there were a couple of hiccups during post that we had to deal with. But I mean, it's all general stuff with filmmaking, right? I don't know anyone that can say that everything went smoothly from day one to the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, big budget Star Wars had to stop because Harrison Ford broke his ankle because Millennium Falcon fell on it, and you can't get much. So it doesn't matter.
I just heard they just got replaced a couple of directors on the new one, haven't they?
They have on Solo, is it? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, nothing's without problem.
No,
this is saying looking back now, it's actually out. Phew, but it's been a rough path to get from the idea to now, but we got there, which is the main thing.
I was going to say that's the thing. It's because it doesn't matter what it's the fact that you overcome it. I think a lovely phrase I have is "throw me to the wolves and I'll come back leading the pack." And so whenever I talk to someone like you, it's inspirational because you've had the trials and tribulations which some people could give up on and say, right, especially with like George Clooney, with that plot line, you could just give it up. But the passion that you've got, just like throw it in the corners. Oh well, there goes the film, But the passion that you've got, and you've the desire and the spirit to push that on, rewrite and rework the plot of the film just to make sure that you do realise your dreams, and that's something that I think people should take more account of and realise that you can do it regardless of what's thrown in your way. You can always I
mean, a couple of people have I've heard like, oh, Nadia was really lucky. It's like, Nadia, if you knew all the things that had happened during this film, you'd say Nadia wasn't really lucky. But I mean, that's the thing. I think, people say to me, oh, do you know how hard it is to get a film made in Hollywood? But I think, a lot of people probably do give up too soon. And there were so many times where I could have given up and I thought, is this really worth it? Mm-hmm. Is this, sacrificing all these things for this film? But I feel like I didn't have a choice. However down I got one day or something, if things wasn't going right, the next day I'd get up and it would just be like automatic in me to push through and just keep going and find solutions and get it done. And I think so many other people maybe give up on their script too early, or
mm-hmm.
if you my feeling is if you have a passion for something, you will always succeed in the end, because that really drives everything. And that's really what's driven me. I've really wanted to do this and I've really wanted to get made, and I've always kind of looked for ways and means to get it done. And I really think that passion is really what has driven this project.
No, it's very good, and it's very wise words for anyone. That was a question I was going to have. What advice would you give someone starting out, or someone in that position and having that passion, I think, and pushing through and following it through, regardless of what happens? You can always work it out, and I think that's a really great piece of advice for anyone. Is to get that through. And again, just relating back to me, I could have given up, and I've nearly given up so many times doing this, because it's difficult. Like an actress, I like is when you're doing the actress, obviously, for everyone, an interview like yourself, a really great interview, there's 100 who've written back or don't write back at all, it does get depressing. I mean, I had one of my most favourite actors of all time, publicist, wrote to me the other day, he would rather not be interviewed by you on your show. And I was like, it's obviously a publicist, obviously, because that's a standard response. But it was a response that just hit you, really, and it's like, and it's, if you get stuff like that, and that's not taking it about me, but it's trying to show that passion. If you don't have a passion behind it, stuff like that it can just really knock you and set you back. So I totally admire the fact that you've had so many, little niggles and big niggles sometimes when you're making your film, and you're getting a worldwide. You release in US and Canada. It's going to be released in the UK. You're going to get a worldwide release of your film, which is something really, really proud to be proud of. To get that, and I'm sure you are. I don't need to tell you to be proud, but
No, I am. Now it's kind of all sinking in now. Oh, I've just made a film.
Yeah.
In the middle of it, it's been so much work and so much time. It's really hard to kind of think of that. But I think we had the premiere in Hollywood last week, and it was at the Chinese Theatre.
Oh wow!
And very iconic theatre on Hollywood Boulevard. And initially, I was like, I don't know if I want to do a big premiere somewhere there. And I was like, are you kidding? To have your first feature played at the Chinese Theatre to a huge audience, and of course you do. I'm like, yeah, maybe. And it went really well. So that was kind of, I think, the first moment when you kind of see it on a huge screen at an
Yeah.
iconic theatre like that with a big audience, and it's really the first official release, and it goes down really well, and you hear people laugh and clap, and you're like, oh, maybe it's not so bad after all.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's better than seeing everyone walking out.
Yeah, that would have been awful.
Oh God, I wouldn't dream. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But so no, but there you go. You know, like you say, it panned out. The Chinese theatre, which is probably the most famous cinema or theatre I'd say possibly the world for like cinema type things and getting your stuff, because everybody knows about it, and it's where, you know, it's the likes of, I don't know if it's true or not, like Guardians of the Galaxy. You think massive blockbusters get put out at the Chinese theatre, and your film was there. So
Yeah,
that's
quite
awesome.
exciting.
That is exciting. Right, I've only got a couple of questions left. You'll probably be glad to know.
No,
Who would the ideal person you'd like to work with in the future? I'm going to split this into two: one for director and one for an actor or actress.
You know, I'm a big fan of David O. Russell as a director.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, you know, his films, I mean, Silver Lining Playbook and American Hustle, they're just I think he's an actor's director, and some directors of film are on the technical side. Like, I mean, Christopher Nolan would be amazing to work with, but I don't feel he's such an actor's director as someone like David O. Russell. You know, I've been to Q&As with him and heard like Amy Adams talk, and you know, they'll be doing a table read and he'll be texting her. You know, she walks around the street at night hopeless and things. You know, I just think he gets so involved with his characters. Obviously he writes as well, and he writes really strong characters for actors, and you know, I just think that would be really, really fun to work with him as an actor. And which other actors would I like to work with?
There's probably quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Bale is a great actor who I really admire. I think he's very good. John Hamm, who I mentioned earlier, just because I have a bit of a crush on him. I mean, there's just so many. There's so many great actors. It's hard to name them all.
Fair enough. That's yeah. It's one, but it is a difficult question to answer. So I don't blame you there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Christopher Nolan is, you know, obviously on that side of things. I think, like Dunkirk, for example. I mean, I loved the movie, technically brilliant, but then there's the other people who do say that because he was so technical, people find it difficult to work with him on a personal level, because he's visioned in such a way. And again, I'm not knocking him, because he's one of the best out there. I think, you know, the Batman trilogies were awesome as well. But I know exactly what you mean. Very, very technical, very focused and driven on that side of things. And it'd be a people's director is probably a great one to have, because they understand a bit more. And I can't believe you've seen Amy Adams doing Q&A, and she's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's one of the benefits of living in Hollywood. You get to go to some Q&As. Actually, I just saw a panel with all the directors that nominated for Oscars at the Directors Guild. So there was Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro and, you know, Martin McDonagh. So that's really interesting to listen to how they work. Greta Gerwig, who I don't know if you saw Lady Bird, but it's really interesting, like the way Christopher Nolan talks. It's all about style, and you know, it's very stylistic and visual, and he kind of reminds me like he's an architect. You know, he looks at things like an architect does, but for film. Whereas like Greta Gerwig, I think because she was an actor and a writer, it's all about you know, the acting and the performance. And like Martin McDonagh, the three billboards guy, his background's a writer, so it's very interesting to hear him talk, and it's all about, you have to say exactly the words that are on the page, you know, because he has a writer's brain. So it's really interesting to go and pick up, you know, what other people are doing and what techniques they use and how they write and how they direct and how they work with actors. So that's one of the cool things about living in LA, that I get to do that.
Fantastic. The last question I've got for you. This is a signature type question, Nadia. It's got nothing to do with your film, and it's got. I'll put one after the end anyway, just make it boom. But basically, last year I had a guy called Mike Quinn on. You might have heard of him, you might not have. He's basically been a Muppeteer for 25, 30 years with Jim Henson. He was in Return of the Jedi. He was like Nine Numb, things like that. And I sent in a question for him, and I thought the question was that great. I've tried to use it as a signature question on every single interview. If you could have a Muppet character created based on you, what kind of Muppet would you be? You
What
can
kind
be
of pumpkin would I
yeah,
be?
you can be an existing one. You can be a mix of them.
Hmm. What kind of Muppet would I? I mean, Miss Piggy. I mean, not that I want to be a piggy, but her attitude, she was so funny. But I probably wouldn't be a pig. I'd probably be more like a cat or something, more
Hmm.
cat-like and kind of, a bit more sophisticated. And, she has a bit of an attitude, but I'd have like a sophisticated, knowing attitude.
Fair enough. Fair
That's it. I
enough.
just like Kermit actually. Kermit was my favorite. Actually, Kermit, and then there was a dog. Was it Rolf or
Rolf
something?
dog. Yeah, Rolf the dog. Yeah, the piano.
Well, I was the dog, so I was like the dog.
Uh, fair enough. I'll do what was my Kermit's? Piggy, Piggy, you need it on stage, Piggy. That's my Kermit. I've got a dry throat. It doesn't work. I do Yoda and Donald Duck as well. But I'll save you from them.
I used to sing that song. He used to sing a song, Kermit, about being at the bottom of the stairs or something.
Oh, I
And
can't
I'm not
remember that
going
one.
to even ask him to try. But do you remember that song?
I do remember
Something
that song.
about the stair halfway up or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually got somewhere, and it's quite sad because there's an app called Smule. I don't know if you've seen it, the karaoke app. I've done on there. And
Oh, really?
it's like, why are there so many songs about rainbows? The Rainbow Connection I did in my Kermit voice. It was better than
Oh, you did.
that.
Check that out. I like karaoke, but I'm not sure I'd sing a Kermit song.
It was quite fun. Actually, played in part before I stopped the recording for people who are actually listening and watching this. What kind of advice this is following on from before? What advice would you like to say? What would you like to say to people who are listening and now? Apart from
Well, I
watch your
would
film.
say. Sorry, say that again.
Apart from to go and watch the film.
Yeah, I was going to say, watch the film. There's no such thing as a perfect man, so don't try and look for one. And yeah, anyone who wants to make their own project, whatever it is, really, like I say, it can be film, it can be anything. Just, it's a cliche to say, oh, don't give up, whatever, but it's really true. Like, don't give up. Like, there's always an ending, and if you have the passion to push through something, then you'll get there. So, and watch the film.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nadia. That was absolutely fantastic. So much fun. So happy to meet you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the film as well myself. Everybody, you've got to go out there and watch this film. Support Nadia. Support For the Love of George. Looks like a cracking comedy. Anyway, hope you've all enjoyed listening or watching. This has been Chris Gordon on Hellblazer Biz saying, see you next time.